The salvage beacon blinked red against the black void of space. David Ross adjusted his scanner and frowned at the readings. Something felt wrong about this one. 3 years of running salvage operations had taught him to trust his gut, but bills needed paying. "Shira, you getting anything unusual on your end?" he called out. A low rumble echoed through the ship before the massive saurian squeezed through the doorway. Her iridescent scales caught the light from the displays, shifting between deep blue and purple, wings folded tight against her body. She moved with surprising grace for something twice the size of an earth elephant. "Death," Shira said, her voice like gravel and silk combined. "Old death. But something else too. Something alive." David's hands flew across the controls. "Alive? The station's been dead for 6 months according to records. Automated distress only." "I know what I sense, little friend." Shira's golden eyes narrowed. "We should investigate, quickly." The station loomed ahead, a twisted mass of metal and broken dreams. Research Station Prometheus, the faded letters read. David had heard stories about this place. Corporate research, they said. Genetic work. Nothing good ever came from these black site stations. They docked carefully. The station's artificial gravity still functioned, barely. Emergency lights flickered in the corridors like dying fireflies. David wore his pressure suit, but Shira needed nothing. Her species could survive vacuum for hours if needed. "Stay close," David whispered, though he knew how silly that sounded. Shira could tear through steel doors if she wanted. They moved through the station. Bodies lay scattered in some sections. Scientists and security personnel dead for months. David tried not to look too closely at what remained. Whatever happened here had been violent and quick. Shira stopped suddenly, her head tilting. "This way." She led him deeper into the station, past laboratories filled with broken equipment and scattered papers. David caught glimpses of research notes. Words like enhancement and forced integration and acceptable losses made his stomach turn. "How much further?" he asked. "Here." Shira's massive clawed hand pressed against what looked like a solid wall. Pressure seals hissed and a hidden door slid open. The room beyond was cold, so cold that frost covered every surface. Cryopods lined the walls, most of them dark and empty. But 5 pods still glowed with active lights. 5 pods with small forms inside. "Oh God," David breathed. "They're kids." He rushed to the nearest pod and wiped away the frost. A girl maybe 12 years old lay inside. Her left arm was metal and wires. Her eye, even closed, showed the telltale gleam of cybernetic replacement. Tubes and cables connected her to the pod's life support. Shira moved to another pod. A small boy no more than 4. His chest opened up to show mechanical organs working alongside biological ones. 2 more pods held twins, their skulls showing signs of neural implants. The 5th pod contained another young girl with legs that were more machine than flesh. What did they do to these children? Shira's voice carried a dangerous edge. Her species loved their young with fierce devotion. This scene violated everything her kind held sacred. David found a functioning terminal and pulled up the logs. His hands shook as he read. These children were orphans from frontier colonies. Stolen. Brought here for illegal augmentation experiments. The corporation wanted to create perfect soldiers, workers, spies. They wanted to prove cybernetic enhancement could start in childhood. When funding dried up and legal trouble threatened, they abandoned everything. Left these children in cryo-sleep to die slowly as the power failed. "The pods are failing," David said, checking the readings. "They have maybe days left. Maybe less." "Then we take them." Shira's tone allowed no argument. "Shira, wait. Think about this. We report this, let the authorities handle it. These kids need proper medical care. They're augmentations. They're complex. We're not equipped for this. The authorities will kill them." Shira moved to the pods, examining each child carefully. "They are illegal. Unauthorized augmentation. The government will see them as evidence to be disposed of, not children to be saved." David wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. He had seen how the system worked. These children were technically illegal constructs. No identification, no records, no rights. They would disappear into some research facility or worse. "If we take them, we're running from everyone," he said quietly. "Corporate hunters will want them dead to hide evidence. Law enforcement will want them contained. We'll be fugitives." Shira looked at him with those golden eyes. Yes. Just one word, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. David looked at the children again. The oldest girl's face, even in cryosleep, held traces of fear and pain. The smallest boy's chest rose and fell with mechanical precision. his tiny body more machine than it should ever be. "All right," David said. "Let's get them out of here. Carefully. We'll need to move fast once they're awake." They worked quickly, transferring the pods to their ship. Shira handled them with surprising gentleness, her massive claws more careful than human hands. David grabbed all the medical data he could find, hoping it would help them later. As they prepared to leave, alarms suddenly blared. The station's security system, dormant until now, had detected the pod removal. "Company's coming," David said, checking his scanner. 3 ships, corporate signatures. They must have been monitoring the station remotely. "Then we leave now." Shira was already moving, carrying 2 pods at once. They ran through the corridors. Behind them, David could hear docking clamps engaging. Whoever was coming, they were coming fast. They reached their ship and sealed the airlock just as the first corporate security team breached the station. David fired up the engines while Shira secured the pods in the medical bay. "Hold on," he called out. "This is going to be rough." The ship lurched forward, pulling away from the station. Weapons fire flashed past their hull. David pushed the engines harder than he should, making jumps and turns that threatened to tear their ship apart. Finally, they escaped into a debris field where the bigger corporate ships couldn't follow. David set the autopilot and collapsed in his chair. "We did it," he gasped. "No," Shira said softly. "Now it begins. Now we teach these children they are safe. Now we show them what family means." In the medical bay, status lights blinked on the 5 pods. 5 children, stolen and broken and abandoned, now had a chance. David didn't know how they would manage this. He didn't know if they could keep these kids safe from everyone hunting them. But as he watched Shira gently check each pod's systems, her massive form radiating protective determination, he knew they would try. They had to try. The question was whether it would be enough. 3 days into their escape, the screaming started. David had just finished repairing a damaged power coupling when the sound tore through the ship. High-pitched, terrified, desperate. He dropped his tools and ran toward the medical bay. The oldest girl was awake. Her cybernetic eye glowed red as she thrashed in the pod, her metal arm striking the glass hard enough to crack it. The medical restraints held, but barely. "Easy, easy," David called out, keeping his distance. "You're safe. Nobody's going to hurt you." The girl's head snapped toward him, her human eye, brown and wide with fear, fixed on his face. Then she looked past him and her screaming got worse. Shira stood in the doorway, filling it completely. The girl saw scales, claws, wings, teeth. She saw a monster from nightmares. "Get away from her," the girl shrieked. "Get that thing away." Shira flinched like she had been struck. Without a word, she backed out of the room. David heard her heavy footsteps retreating down the corridor. "She's gone," David said softly. "Look, just me now. Human, like you. My name is David. You're on my ship. You're safe." "Safe?" The girl's laugh was bitter and broken. "Nothing's safe." "Where are the others? Where are the little ones?" David gestured to the other pods. "Right here. Still sleeping. We're bringing them out one at a time. You first because you're oldest, Lily," she whispered. "My name is Lily. I take care of them." "Let me see them." David helped her out of the pod carefully. She was unsteady on her feet, muscles weak from months in cryo. Her metal arm moved with perfect precision, but her flesh arm trembled. They moved to each pod so she could see the others sleeping peacefully. "Who are they?" she asked. "That's Ben and Beth, the twins. That's Kara with the legs. And the little one is Nico." Lily touched each pod glass gently. "Is the monster really gone?" "Shira isn't a monster," David said. "She's my friend. My partner. She helped me save you." "Why would something like that help humans?" "Because she has a bigger heart than most humans I've met." Over the next week, they woke the other children carefully. Ben and Beth came out together, holding hands, refusing to speak. Kara cried silently for hours. Nico, the smallest, required constant monitoring as his mechanical organs adjusted to being active again. Lily became their voice and their shield. She stood between them and any perceived threat. She barely slept, watching over the others constantly, and she refused to let Shira anywhere near them. "She could hurt us," Lily insisted. "Look at her claws. Look at her teeth. Look at her eyes," David countered. "She's hurting because you won't let her near you." And it was true. Shira spent most of her time in the cargo bay, curled up alone. Sometimes David heard her humming, a deep, melodic sound that seemed to vibrate through the ship's hull. It was a saurian lullaby, he realized. Her species sang them to comfort their young, but the children were too afraid. They had been taught in that terrible lab that aliens were dangerous, that only humans could be trusted. The irony wasn't lost on David. Humans had tortured them, but they feared the alien who wanted to protect them. 10 days into their journey, everything changed. David was in the cockpit when the alarm screamed. Nico's vital signs were dropping, fast. He ran to the medical bay where all 5 children were gathered. The little boy was having a seizure, his mechanical parts fighting against his biological ones. "What's happening?" Lily demanded. "System rejection," David said, reading the monitors frantically. "His body's attacking the implants. Or the implants are attacking his body. I can't tell. I don't have the equipment for this." He tried everything he knew. Nothing worked. Nico's small body arched on the bed, his chest mechanisms grinding and sparking. The other children watched in horror. "Do something," Kara screamed. "I can't," David admitted, and the helplessness in his voice was complete. "I don't know how. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a salvage operator who's way out of his depth." Shira's voice came from the doorway, carefully gentle. "I can help." "No." Lily moved to block her. "Stay away from him. Child, I know you fear me, but that little one will die without help. My species, we have bioelectric capabilities. I can stabilize his systems long enough to stop the rejection cascade." "You'll kill him," Lily said, but her voice wavered. "I will save him, or I will die trying. This I swear on the memory of my own lost hatchlings." The silence that followed was heavy. Nico's vital signs dropped lower. Ben and Beth were crying silently, holding each other. Kara had her hands over her mouth. "Please," David said to Lily. "Let her try." Lily stepped aside slowly. Shira moved forward, each step careful and measured. She was so big in the small medical bay, but she made herself as small as possible. She reached Nico's bed and extended one massive claw. "This will look frightening," she said to the other children. "But watch his face. Watch and see that I bring no pain." Blue light began to glow from Shira's scales. It spread down her arm, concentrated in her claw. She placed it carefully on Nico's chest, right over his mechanical heart. The light pulsed in rhythm, slow and steady. Nico's seizure stopped. His body relaxed. The grinding sounds from his chest mechanism smoothed into normal operation. Color returned to his face. His breathing, half mechanical, half biological, found a stable pattern. "How long do you need to do this?" David asked. "Hours," Shira said, "until his systems remember how to work together. I will not move until he is stable." She stayed there perfectly still, her claw on the little boy's chest. The blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. 1 hour passed, 2, 3. The other children watched in silence. Slowly, they moved closer. Kara was the first to really approach. She walked right up to Shira and stared up at the massive alien's face. "Are you warm?" she asked quietly. "Very warm, little one." Kara reached out with one small hand and touched Shira's scales. "Oh, you are. You're really warm." She pressed her whole palm against the scales. "It's nice." Ben and Beth came next, standing on either side looking at Nico. The little boy was sleeping peacefully now, but Shira didn't move. She had promised to stay until he was stable. "Thank you," Beth whispered, the first words she had spoken since waking up. "You're welcome, small ones," Shira rumbled softly. Lily stood apart, watching. David could see the war in her expression. Everything she had been taught said Shira was dangerous. Everything she was seeing said otherwise. 4 hours after starting, Shira finally lifted her claw. Nico's vital signs were strong and stable. The little boy stirred and opened his eyes. He looked up at Shira's massive face and smiled. "Pretty lights," he mumbled, still drowsy. "Rest now, little one," Shira said. "You are safe." She tried to stand but stumbled. The bioelectric healing had drained her completely. David rushed to support her, though he knew he couldn't really help if she fell. "I need to rest," Shira said. "Forgive me, I must go to the cargo bay." She turned to leave, but small hands grabbed her tail. Kara held on tight. "Don't go. Stay here, please." "Child, I am tired. I must rest, and then rest here," Kara insisted, "now with us, where it's warm." Ben and Beth nodded agreement. Even Lily, after a long moment, gave a small nod. "You saved him," Lily said quietly. "You kept your promise." Shira settled carefully on the floor of the medical bay. The children, all except Nico, who still slept in his bed, gathered around her. Kara curled up against her warm side. The twins sat with their backs to her, finally relaxed. Lily sat nearby, still watchful but no longer hostile. David watched from the doorway as Shira began to hum that lullaby again. This time the children heard it. This time they let it comfort them. It was just one moment, one small breakthrough, but David knew it was the beginning of something important. These broken children and his dragon friend were learning what it meant to be a family, and that was worth running from the entire galaxy. David's hands froze over the navigation controls. 3 ships had just dropped out of hyperspace behind them. Military grade. Corporate signatures. They had been found. "Shira, we've got company," he called out. "Bad company." The Saurian appeared instantly, the children trailing behind her like ducklings. Over the past 2 weeks, they had become inseparable from her. Now they looked to her first whenever danger threatened. "How did they find us?" Lily asked, her cybernetic eyes scanning the tactical display. "Doesn't matter how," David said, already plotting escape vectors. "What matters is losing them." The communication system crackled to life. A woman's voice, cold and professional, filled the bridge. "Unregistered vessel, this is Captain Rita Hayes of the Recovery Fleet. You are harboring stolen corporate property. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." "Property?" Shira's growl was dangerous. "They dare call these children property?" "They're assets to them," David said bitterly. "Evidence of illegal experiments. They can't let them live to testify." Another voice cut in, male and icy. "This is Director Cross. Mr. Ross, Ms. Hayes is being diplomatic. Let me be clear. Those units are classified research materials. Return them immediately or we will retrieve them by force. And trust me, force is messy. Children get hurt in crossfire." Nico whimpered and pressed closer to Shira. The twins held hands so tight their knuckles were white. Kara's enhanced legs trembled. Lily put herself between the younger ones and the view screen. "Over my dead body," David said into the communicator. "That can be arranged," Director Cross replied. The first weapons blast rocked their ship. David's hands flew across controls, pushing the engines to full power. They lurched forward, dodging another shot by centimeters. "Shira, I need impossible. Can you plot us a jump?" Shira's species navigated space differently than humans. They felt gravitational currents, sensed the fabric of space-time itself. It made them incredible pilots, able to plot jumps through routes no computer would consider safe. "Give me the controls," she said. David switched to her station. Shira's claws danced over controls designed for human hands, too delicate for her massive size. But her touch was precise. Numbers scrolled across screens. The children watched in amazement as she calculated vectors that defied logic. "Everyone hold on to something," Shira warned. "This will not be comfortable. What are you planning?" David asked. "A jump through the Keldon Nebula. The gravitational eddies there are lethal to most ships. Most ships, including ours. Not if I guide us through. Trust me, little friend." Another blast hit their shields. Alarms screamed. The corporate ships were getting closer and they had better weapons. "Do it," David said. Reality twisted. The jump felt wrong, like being pulled through a pipe too small for your body. David's stomach tried to climb out of his throat. The children screamed. But Shira remained perfectly calm, her claws adjusting their course constantly as they shot through the nebula. The corporate ships tried to follow. David watched on sensors as one ship clipped a gravitational eddy and spun out of control. The other 2 hesitated, fell behind, lost them in the swirling chaos of the nebula. They emerged on the other side, ship intact but everyone shaking. "Everyone okay?" David asked. The children nodded, but they looked terrified. Nico was crying quietly. Shira immediately scooped him up, cradling him against her chest. "We're safe now, little ones," she rumbled. "They cannot follow where we have gone." "For how long?" Lily asked. She was too smart to believe they were truly safe. "They found us once. They'll find us again. Then we make sure there's no reason to hunt you anymore," David said. "We need to expose what happened to you. Make it public. Make it so big they can't just make you disappear." "How?" Beth asked. "I know someone," David said slowly. "Dr. Park. She used to work in cybernetics before she saw what corporations were doing. She runs a hidden clinic now. Helps people the system abandoned. She might help us." Finding Dr. Park took another 3 days of careful travel. Her facility was hidden on a remote moon, camouflaged as a mining operation. When David sent the coded message, the response was cautious but willing. "Bring them in," came the reply. "But David, if you're being followed, don't come. I can't risk the others I'm protecting. We're clean. David assured her. The facility was small but well-equipped. Dr. Park met them at the airlock, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and tired hands. She took one look at the children and her expression hardened. Who did this to them? Prometheus Research Station. Corporate black site. They were experimenting on orphans. Dr. Park closed her eyes briefly. I've heard rumors about Prometheus. I hoped they weren't true. She knelt down to the children's level. Hello, I'm Dr. Park. I help people with cybernetics. Would you let me check your systems? Make sure everything's working right? The children looked to Shira, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly they agreed. Over the next week, Dr. Park worked with each child. She removed some of the more dangerous implants, stabilized others, taught them how to manage their systems. But some augmentations were permanent. Lily's arm and eye couldn't be removed without killing her. The twins' neural links were integrated too deep. Kara's legs were fused to her nervous system. Nico's mechanical organs were keeping him alive. They'll always be part machine, Dr. Park explained to David and Shira. But that doesn't have to be a curse. Their augmentations give them abilities. We should help them embrace that, not fear it. She was right. As the children healed and grew stronger, their unique capabilities emerged. Lily discovered she could sense digital signals, almost hear data transmission. The twins could share thoughts between their linked minds, communicating instantly without words. Kara's enhanced legs made her incredibly fast, able to run at speeds that would injure normal children. Nico's systems gave him a perfect memory, able to recall anything he saw or heard. We're different, Lily said one day, watching her metal hand flex. But maybe that's okay. Different isn't wrong, Shira said. Different is just different. What matters is what's inside. She tapped Lily's chest gently with one claw. Here, that's what makes you who you are. They had been at the facility for 2 weeks when the alarm sounded. Perimeter sensors had detected ships. Lots of ships. They tracked us here, David said, checking the readings. How? Lily's cybernetic eye suddenly glowed brighter. It's me. My implants. They have a tracking signature I didn't know about. I led them right to us. Not your fault, Shira said firmly. The fault lies with those who put that tracker in you. Rita Hayes' voice came over the facility's communication system. Dr. Park, we know you're harboring the assets. Send them out peacefully and we'll leave you alone. Resist and we'll take everyone in that facility as accomplices. David looked around at Dr. Park's clinic. There were other people here, other children and adults that the system had abandoned, all of them at risk now because they had been trying to help. We have to go, David said. We can't let them hurt everyone here because of us. No, Dr. Park said firmly. I knew the risks when I started this place. I won't hand children over to people who want them dead. Then we fight, Shira said simply. Against trained soldiers? We don't have weapons. We have medical equipment and hope. Lily stepped forward, her cybernetic eye glowing. We have more than that. We have us, she looked at the other children. Ben and Beth nodded in unison. Kara bounced on her enhanced legs. Even little Nico stood tall, his chest mechanisms humming with determination. What are you thinking? David asked. They want assets? Dangerous experiments? Lily's smile was fierce. Let's show them what we can do. The children had a plan. Lily could sense the corporate ship's communication frequencies. The twins could coordinate everyone in the facility through their neural link. Kara could move faster than anyone expected, and Nico's perfect memory held the layout of the entire facility after just 2 weeks. This is crazy, David said, but he was smiling. Crazy is our specialty, Lily replied. Outside, the corporate forces were moving in. Inside, a broken family was about to fight back. David sent one last message to Rita Hayes, and this time, he was recording everything for broadcast. You want these kids? Come and get them. But the whole galaxy is going to watch what you do. The battle for the facility was about to begin. The corporate soldiers entered the facility expecting easy targets. They found something very different. Lily sat in the control room, her cybernetic eye glowing bright blue as she hacked into their communication network. She could hear everything they said, every order, every position report. She shared it all through the twins' neural link, and Ben and Beth distributed information to everyone in the facility instantly. 6 soldiers coming through the east entrance, Lily said calmly. 3 more on the west side. Kara was already moving. Her enhanced legs carried her faster than the soldiers could track. She hit the manual door controls, sealing sections before the soldiers could reach critical areas. She was a blur of motion. always 3 steps ahead. Nico stood at the central computer, his perfect memory recalling every security protocol Dr. Park had mentioned. His small hands flew across the keyboard, locking down systems the soldiers needed to breach the inner facility. David and Dr. Park led the other refugees to safe rooms deep in the facility. Shira guarded the main corridor, her massive form blocking the only path to where the children worked. "Stand down," Rita Hayes called over her communication system. "You're only making this harder on yourselves." "Good," Lily replied, hijacking their channel. "We want it to be hard. And by the way, smile. You're being broadcast live to 17 million people across 6 systems." David's message had worked. The underground networks had picked up his broadcast and spread it everywhere. People across the galaxy were watching corporate soldiers trying to capture children. The tide of public opinion was turning fast. Director Cross appeared on the screen in the control room, his face red with rage. "You think this changes anything? Those units are illegal. We're within our rights to recover them." "These units have names," Lily shot back. Her voice was steady, strong. "I'm Lily. These are Ben, Beth, Kara, and Nico. We're not property. We're people. And everyone is watching what you do next." A massive explosion rocked the facility. The soldiers had breached the outer wall. Shira roared, the sound vibrating through every corridor. The soldiers approaching her position hesitated. They had weapons. She had claws and centuries of predator instinct. "I will not let you pass," Shira said, her voice carrying to their helmet cameras. "These children are under my protection." "It's an alien," one soldier said nervously. "The briefing didn't mention a Saurian." "Doesn't matter," their commander replied. "Use lethal force if necessary," they fired. Shira moved with impossible speed for something so large, her wings spreading to shield the corridor behind her. The energy blasts hit her scales and scattered, absorbed by natural armor that had evolved over millions of years. She charged. The soldiers scattered. 3 of them dropped their weapons and ran. The others tried to hold position but faced something their training had never prepared them for. Shira wasn't trying to kill them. She was far more terrifying than that. She was a mother protecting her young. One soldier managed to slip past her during the chaos. He ran down the corridor toward the control room where Lily coordinated everything. If he could take her down, the children's defense would collapse. He burst through the door, weapon raised. Lily turned to face him, her cybernetic eye locking onto his. She was just a 12-year-old girl with a metal arm. He was a trained soldier with body armor and a plasma rifle. She smiled. The soldier's weapon sparked and died. His armor system shut down. His helmet display went black. Every piece of technology he carried stopped working at once. "Did you forget?" Lily asked. "I can hear digital signals. I can also send them. Your equipment just received a very nasty shutdown command." Ben and Beth appeared in the doorway behind the soldier, their neural link glowing softly. The soldier felt something in his head, a pressure, a confusion. The twins couldn't control minds, but they could share emotions. Right now they were sharing terror, the same terror they had felt in the research lab, magnified and reflected back. The soldier dropped to his knees, overwhelmed. "We don't want to hurt you," Lily said quietly, "but we will defend ourselves. Tell your commander to leave." Outside the facility, Director Cross watched the operation fall apart. His soldiers were retreating, demoralized, outmaneuvered by children. And worse, the entire galaxy had watched it happen. Messages were flooding in from news organizations, governments, human rights groups, even other corporations distancing themselves from what was happening. "Pull back," he ordered finally. "All units retreat," but he wasn't giving up. As his forces withdrew, he activated a failsafe. Inside Lily's cybernetic implants, a kill switch program initiated. It was designed to shut down her systems if she ever became too difficult to control. Lily gasped as pain shot through her. Her cybernetic eye flickered. Her metal arm locked up. She fell to her knees. "Lily!" David ran to her side. "What's happening?" "Kill switch," she managed to say through gritted teeth. "In my implants. They're shutting me down." Nico appeared next to her, his small hands touching her metal arm. I remember the code from the lab. Let me help." His perfect memory held fragments of everything from the research station, including security protocols. He guided Dr. Park through the emergency override process while Lily fought to stay conscious. The twins linked with her mind, sharing their strength, keeping her aware. Kara held her human hand squeezing tight. and Shira came thundering down the corridor, sliding to a stop beside her fallen child. "No," Shira breathed. "Not you, not now. Stay with us, little one." "I'm trying," Lily whispered. Dr. Park's hands flew across the medical console. Nico recited codes and sequences. The twins pushed back against the shutdown program with their neural link. Slowly, painfully, they began to override the kill switch. Finally, Lily's system stabilized. Her eye flickered back to normal. Her arm unlocked. She took a deep, shaking breath. "Is it gone?" she asked. "The kill switch is deactivated," Dr. Park confirmed. "They can't use it again." Lily looked up at everyone gathered around her. David with tears in his eyes. Dr. Park exhausted but determined. The twins still holding her mind with theirs. Kara gripping her hand. Nico, proud of his perfect memory finally being useful. And Shira, whose massive head pressed gently against her. "You all saved me," Lily said. "Family saves family," Shira replied simply. And that was it. That was the moment everything changed. They weren't survivors traveling together. They weren't refugees or experiments or victims. They were a family. The broadcast had reached billions now. People across the galaxy had watched children defend themselves. They had watched corporations try to kill those children rather than face justice. They had watched a Saurian risk her life to protect human young who weren't even her species. Messages flooded in. Support. Outrage. Demands for action. The Galactic Council issued an emergency session announcement. Governments opened investigations. Other victims of similar programs came forward, emboldened by what they had seen. Director Cross was arrested trying to flee off-world. Captain Rita Hayes surrendered her weapons and released evidence of corporate wrongdoing in exchange for immunity. The entire Prometheus program collapsed in a single day, but David and Shira barely noticed the chaos outside. They were too busy with what mattered inside. That night they gathered in the common room. Dr. Park had declared them all healthy enough for celebration. Someone found cake mix in storage. It was slightly expired and tasted weird, but nobody cared. Lily taught the younger children how to blow out birthday candles, something none of them had ever done. They decided to celebrate all their birthdays together since none of them knew their real birth dates. They picked today, the day they became a real family. Shira tried to hum her lullaby but kept getting interrupted by children climbing on her. Ben and Beth sat on her wings. Kara balanced on her head. Nico curled up in the curve of her tail. Lily leaned against her side, her cybernetic arm and human arm both relaxed. "Tell us about your world," Kara asked. "The place where Saurians live." "It is warm," Shira began, her voice soft and full of memory. "With red sands and purple skies. We live in family groups, not by blood always, but by choice. By bonds we forge through love and protection." "Like us," Nico said. "Yes, little one. Exactly like us." David watched them all together and felt something break inside him. Good breaking, like ice melting. For 3 years he had run salvage, alone except for Shira, convinced that was enough. Now he couldn't imagine life without these 5 impossible children. "What happens now?" Lily asked. "The corporations are destroyed, but we're still illegal. We still don't fit in anywhere." "Then we make somewhere to fit," David said. "Dr. Park, you said there are others like these kids. Other refugees, other abandoned ones." "Hundreds," Dr. Park confirmed. "Maybe thousands across the systems. Then we find them. We bring them together. We build a place where being different doesn't mean being less." "A home," Beth said softly. "A home." David agreed. They stayed at Dr. Park's facility for another 3 weeks while the legal and political chaos sorted itself out. During that time, the children healed. Not just physically, but in deeper ways. They learned to laugh. They learned to play. They learned what it meant to feel safe. And Shira taught them what she knew about family. In her culture, every adult was responsible for every child. Protection was sacred. Love was not limited by biology or appearance. Family was whoever stood beside you when the universe turned dark. The children absorbed these lessons like dry earth soaking up rain. They had been broken, used, abandoned. Now they were being rebuilt by love into something stronger than what came before. When the call finally came from the Galactic Council, requesting their testimony, they were ready. All of them together. They would face the galaxy and tell their story. But tonight was just for them. 5 children and 2 adults who had found each other in the darkness of space. A family forged by chance and choice and courage. Shira's lullaby filled the room, and this time nobody interrupted. They just listened, safe and warm and home. The Galactic Council Station hung in neutral space, a massive structure where hundreds of species gathered to debate the future. David had never imagined he would walk these halls. Now he stood here with his entire family, about to face judgment from beings who could decide whether the children lived or died as legal entities. Ambassador Wilson from Earth met them at the docking bay. He was a thin man with gray hair and worried eyes. "Mr. Ross, I need you to understand the situation. The corporations want these children declared as unauthorized constructs. If the council agrees, they become evidence to be contained, not people with rights." "That's insane," David said. "That's law," Wilson replied. "In 70 systems, unauthorized augmentation of minors is illegal. The children themselves become illegal by existing." Lily's metal hand clenched into a fist. The twins held each other tight. Kara's legs trembled. Nico pressed against Shira, who stood tall despite the stares from every species passing by. "They are sentient beings," Shira said, her voice carrying weight and authority. "Any law that says otherwise is a broken law." Wilson looked at her with something like respect. "I wish the council saw it that way. Be prepared for the proceedings to be difficult. They'll ask hard questions. They'll want to examine the children. Some species don't share human or Saurian views on youth protection." The hearing chamber was enormous, designed to hold representatives from species of wildly different sizes. David and his family sat in a designated area, while council members filled the space around them. Some looked human. Others were so alien that David couldn't identify basic features. All of them watched the children with various expressions of curiosity, disgust, or calculation. High Arbiter Quan called the session to order. She was from a species called the Vorthian, tall and crystalline, her body reflecting light in strange patterns. Her voice resonated from everywhere at once. "We are gathered to determine the legal status of 5 human juveniles removed from Research Station Prometheus. The question before us is whether they constitute persons with rights or unauthorized constructs subject to containment and study." "They're children," David interrupted, standing up. "That's not a question. That's a fact." "Order," Quan said, though not unkindly. "You will have time to speak, Mr. Ross. First, we hear from the corporate representative." A lawyer stood representing what remained of the company that had funded Prometheus. "These units represent illegal augmentation. Human law strictly prohibits cybernetic modification of minors. By existing, they are evidence of crime. They should be held for study to prevent future violations." "They're talking about us like we're things," Kara whispered. "Because to them, we are," Lily replied quietly. The lawyer continued. "Furthermore, the augmentation level makes it unclear if they can even be considered human anymore. At what point does modification negate original species classification? The girl Lily is 43% synthetic by mass. The child Nico requires his mechanical systems to survive. Are they human, machine, something in between with no legal status in either category?" David's hand shook with rage. Shira placed a massive claw on his shoulder, steadying him. "We will now hear testimony," Quan announced. "Mr. Ross, you first." David stood and walked to the central platform. Every eye in the chamber fixed on him. He thought about what to say, all the legal arguments, all the careful words. Then he looked at the children watching him with hope and fear mixed together. He threw away the speech he had planned. "I'm just a salvage operator," he began. "I'm not a lawyer or a politician. I don't understand half the laws you're debating. But I understand what I saw when I found these kids. They were abandoned in cryopods, left to die slowly, not by accident. On purpose. The people who did that weren't prosecuted for creating illegal constructs. They were prosecuted for attempted murder, because even your courts recognized what they did was done to living children, not machines." He pointed at the corporate lawyer. "That man talks about percentages and mass ratios. I look at those kids and I see 5 individuals who laugh and cry and dream and fear. They feel pain. They feel love. They're people. But are they human?" asked a council member, a being that looked like living coral. "Does it matter?" David shot back. "There are 37 species in this chamber right now. You're not all human. Does that mean you're not people?" Murmurs ran through the council. Some sounded approving, others hostile. "Your turn, Saurian," Quan said, gesturing to Shira. Shira moved forward. She was so large that the platform wasn't designed for her. She stood beside it instead. towering over David but radiating protective gentleness. "My people have a law," she began. "It is older than your council, older than most of your civilizations. It says that any being who sheds blood defending young ones gains the right of family, not by biology, not by species, by choice and sacrifice." She spread her wings, and everyone could see the scars on them from the battle at Dr. Park's facility. "I bled for these children. I would bleed again. I would die to keep them safe. By the oldest law my people know they are mine. I am theirs. We are family." "Saurian family law has no bearing in this council," the corporate lawyer objected. "It has every bearing," Shira replied, her voice dropping to a dangerous rumble. "Because what is law but a reflection of what we believe is right? And if your laws say that children who have suffered should suffer more, then your laws are evil. I name them evil here before all of you." The chamber erupted. Some council members shouted agreement. Others demanded order. Quan's crystalline form flashed bright, calling for silence. "The children will now testify," she announced. Lily stood first. She walked to the platform with her head high, her cybernetic eye glowing steady. "My name is Lily. I'm 12 years old. I remember everything that was done to me in that lab. Every cut, every implant. Every time I screamed for them to stop and they didn't. I remember all of it." Her voice didn't shake. "They took away my arm and gave me metal. They took away my eye and gave me circuits. They took away my childhood and gave me nightmares. But you know what they couldn't take? They couldn't take me. I'm still here. I'm still Lily. And no law can change that." The twins came next, speaking in alternation, their words flowing between them like water. "We are Ben and Beth." They connected our minds, made us share thoughts. They wanted to create perfect communication. Instead, they made us closer than any siblings. We are two people, but also one family. And that's okay, because family is who you choose. Kara spoke about her legs, about learning to run again, about being fast instead of broken, about Shira teaching her that different could be powerful. Then Nico walked up. The smallest, the most augmented, the one who had come closest to death. He climbed onto the platform with his mechanical heart visible through the clear panel in his chest. He looked at the hundreds of beings watching him. "I'm 4 years old," he said in his small voice. "I don't remember much before the bad place. But I remember the cryopod. It was cold and dark, and I thought I would sleep forever. Then David and Shira came. They brought me to the light and the warm. They gave me a family." He touched his chest where his mechanical organs hummed. "These keep me alive. But Shira is what makes me want to be alive. David teaches me that being scared is okay. Lily protects me. The twins make me laugh. Kara races with me. They're my family. And if your laws say I can't have them, then your laws are wrong." The 4-year-old boy stared down the Galactic Council and nobody spoke. Finally, Quan addressed the chamber. "We have heard testimony. We will now deliberate." The session is recessed. The wait was agony. Hours passed. David and Shira stayed with the children in a holding area. News feeds showed the galaxy watching, waiting. Support messages flooded in from billions of people across hundreds of worlds. When they were called back, the chamber felt different. Tense. Charged with decision. Quan stood. "This council has debated long. The question before us was not simple. But the answer is, these 5 juveniles are sentient beings with full rights and protections under galactic law. They are recognized as human children with exceptional medical needs, not as constructs or property. Any attempt to treat them otherwise will be considered a crime against sapient beings." The chamber erupted in noise. The corporate lawyer tried to object but was shouted down. Quan continued. "Furthermore, this council recognizes the bond of protection claimed by the Saurian Shira. While Saurian family law does not traditionally apply to other species, we find that the principles it embodies are universal. Shira has shed blood in defense of these children. She has claimed them as family. We recognize this claim as legally binding." Shira's wings spread wide in shock and joy. David Ross, as the human who rescued these children and has cared for them since, is also recognized as their legal guardian. Together, Ross and Shira are granted full parental rights and responsibilities. David couldn't breathe. It was too much. Too good to be true. "Finally," Quan said, her voice ringing through the chamber. "This council declares that forced augmentation of minors is now a universal crime, prosecutable across all member systems. No child will suffer as these 5 suffered. This we declare on their behalf." The children stood there stunned. Then Lily started crying. Real tears falling from both her human eye and somehow from her cybernetic one too. The twins grabbed each other and laughed. Kara jumped higher than should be possible. Nico ran to Shira and David, hugging them both. They had won. Against corporations, against laws, against a galaxy that saw them as problems to solve. They had won. Ambassador Wilson approached them afterward, smiling for the first time. "You did it. You actually did it." "No," David said, watching the children celebrate together. "They did it." They stood up and told the truth. That's what changed minds. That night, they stayed on the council station in guest quarters. The children were too excited to sleep. They ran through the rooms, experiencing safety and joy for the first time without fear hanging over them. Shira lay in the center of the largest room, and the children piled onto her like they always did. David sat nearby, watching his impossible family celebrate their victory. "Thank you," Lily said suddenly, looking at David and Shira, "for not giving up on us." "Thank you for teaching us what family really means," David replied. And in that moment, on a space station at the center of the galaxy, 5 broken children and 2 unlikely parents held each other and knew that they were finally, truly, permanently home. 6 months after the council's decision, David stood on the porch of their new home and watched the sunset. 2 suns actually, one red and one orange, painting the sky in colors Earth never had. The planet was called Haven's Rest, a small colony world where people came to start over. It seemed appropriate. Inside the house, chaos reigned in the best possible way. "Lily, Ben took my datapad again." Kara's voice carried through the open windows. "Ben, give it back." "Beth, stop encouraging him." Lily's response held the long-suffering patience of an older sister. "But we were just linking it to the house." "Network," the twins protested in unison, and now the refrigerator is playing music. "Fix it," David smiled. Normal family arguments. The kind that meant everyone was safe and healthy enough to bicker about small things. Nico appeared at his side, tugging on David's sleeve. The boy had grown in the past months. He was still small, still heavily augmented, but his eyes held light now instead of fear. "David, there are more people coming. I saw them on the sensors. I know, buddy. They're here to see if this place is safe for them, too." It had started small. One family heard about David and Shira taking in augmented children. Then another. Then groups of refugees, humans and aliens both, all looking for somewhere they could belong. Dr. Park had moved her entire operation here. The small house had become a compound. The compound was becoming a community. A vehicle landed in the clearing. A nervous couple stepped out with a young boy between them. The child had prosthetic legs too advanced for his age, obviously not chosen. Another victim of someone else's experiments or a desperate medical procedure gone too far. Shira emerged from the house, ducking under the doorframe. The couple flinched. The boy stared in wonder. "Welcome to Haven's Rest," Shira said gently. "You are safe here." The couple relaxed slightly. The boy smiled. By evening, they would join the community. By next week, the boy would be racing Kara through the fields and losing happily. This was what they built. A place where being different wasn't a crime or a shame, where children could heal and adults could protect them without fear, where a human salvage operator and a Saurian pilot could raise a family that made no sense to anyone except them. The school they had established met in the mornings. Lily helped teach the younger children, her cybernetic abilities making her excellent at managing digital lessons. The twins ran a communication network that connected all the families, keeping everyone informed and safe. Kara led physical training, teaching kids that their augmentations could be sources of strength. Nico, with his perfect memory, was becoming their librarian, cataloging every bit of knowledge they gathered. David taught practical skills. Engineering, ship repair, how to fix what breaks. Shira taught philosophy, strategy, and most importantly, what it meant to be family by choice. Dr. Park ran the medical center, constantly improving techniques for helping people live with their augmentations rather than suffer from them. She had trained a staff of 6 now, specialists in cybernetics and trauma care. In the evenings, they gathered for communal meals. It started with just their family of 7. Now sometimes 30 people sat together, sharing food and stories. Humans, Saurians, Vorthians, and a dozen other species, all of them people who didn't fit anywhere else. all of them finding that fitting together was better anyway. Tonight's dinner was special. Lily's 13th birthday. Her real one this time. They had managed to track down her original records and discover her actual birth date. She had insisted they celebrate as a community. Speech, speech, the younger children chanted as Lily stood. She looked embarrassed but pleased. A year ago I was in a cryopod waiting to die. I thought I was alone. I thought nobody cared. I was wrong. She gestured around the room. Look at all of us. We were broken. We were discarded. We were told we didn't matter. But we found each other. We built this place.
And now we're showing the galaxy that different doesn't mean less.
It just means we get to define ourselves instead of letting others define us. Applause erupted. Lily sat down quickly, her face flushed. She's a good leader, Shira said quietly to David. When she's older, she'll do great things. They all will, David replied. You know what the best part is? We don't have to push them toward greatness. They're already heading there on their own. After dinner, the community gathered for evening activities. Some played games. Others worked on projects. The children ran wild through the compound, their laughter echoing under the double sunset. David found himself in the garden where Shira liked to rest. She was there now, her massive form stretched out in the warm sand they had imported for her. The original 5 children were curled up against her, just like they had been that first night in the medical bay. Remember when they were afraid of you? David asked, settling beside them. I remember, Shira rumbled. I also remember the first time little Kara touched my scales and asked if I was warm. That was the moment I knew we would be all right. You never told me this, but why did you insist we save them? You could have said no. We could have reported it and walked away clean. Shira was quiet for a long moment. I had a family once. A clutch of my own back on my homeworld. They were killed in a conflict between clans. I survived. They did not. When I saw those children in those pods, I saw my lost ones. I could not save my first family. But these children, I could save them. I had to save them. David felt tears on his face. I'm sorry. I never knew. It is an old pain. But these 5, they have healed it more than I thought possible. They gave me a reason to be a mother again. For that I am grateful every day. Nico stirred in his sleep, his mechanical heart visible through his chest panel, beating steady and strong. Lily's arm, metal and flesh both, held the younger ones close. The twins breathed in perfect synchronization. Kara smiled in her dreams, probably racing through imaginary fields. What do you think happens next? David asked. More children come. More families. This place grows. Eventually, others like it appear on other worlds. The galaxy changes slowly because we chose to do one right thing. Shira's golden eyes met his. That is what happens when you refuse to accept that the galaxy is as it is. You make it what it should be. A message alert chimed on David's datapad. He checked it and smiled. The Saurian Council wants to officially recognize Haven's Rest. They're sending a delegation. Your people want to meet your family. All of them, Shira said firmly. Not just these 5. Everyone here is family now, and that was true. The community had grown beyond what David imagined. They had people of 20 different species living here. They had built schools, medical centers, workshops, and gardens. They had created something that shouldn't work according to galactic norms, but did anyway. As the stars came out, 3 of them, bright against the purple sky, the community gathered in the central courtyard. Someone had built a fire pit. People sat around it telling stories, singing songs, just being together. David watched Lily teaching a new arrival how to manage her cybernetic implants without fear. He watched the twins coordinating a game that had 15 children of 5 different species playing together seamlessly. He watched Kara racing a young Vorthian boy and deliberately letting him win to build his confidence. He watched Nico explaining the history of Haven's Rest to a group of adults, his perfect memory making him a natural storyteller. And he watched Shira, sitting in the middle of everything, wings spread so children could climb on them, her deep voice humming that lullaby that had become the unofficial anthem of their community. This was what they had built. Not just a home, but a movement. Other communities were forming on other worlds inspired by what happened here. Laws were changing. The way augmented people were treated was improving. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to perfect. But it was better. David? Dr. Park appeared beside him. We got another message. A colony ship full of refugees, mostly children, all with some form of augmentation. They're asking if they can come here. How many? 47 children. 12 adults. David did the math in his head. They would need to expand the compound again. Build more housing. Increase food production. Hire more teachers. Tell them yes, he said. Tell them they're welcome. Tell them they're safe here. Dr. Park smiled and walked away to send the message. David knew it would be challenging. It was always challenging, but that was okay. The best things usually were. Papa David, Nico called out. The boy had started calling him that a few months ago. It made David's heart hurt in a good way every time. Come tell the story. The one about finding us.
Yeah, Kara added.
The part where Shira did the impossible jump. David walked to the fire pit where the community waited. He sat among them, his impossible family, and began the story they never tired of hearing. The salvage beacon blinked red against the black void of space. I adjusted my scanner and frowned at the readings. Something felt wrong about this one. 3 years of running salvage operations had taught me to trust my gut. But bills needed paying. I turned to my partner, my friend, a massive saurian named Shira, and asked if she sensed anything unusual. The children who knew the story mouthed the words along with him. The new arrivals listened with wide eyes. And Shira said to me, she said, death, old death. But something else too, something alive. And that was when everything changed. That was when we stopped being just a human and a saurian working together and started becoming a family. He told the story. The fear, the fight, the council, the victory. Around the fire, people listened and nodded and smiled. They knew this story because it was their story too. Every person here had been lost and then found. Every person here had been broken and then healed. When he finished, Shira added her part of the story, about how she saw 5 children who needed her, and decided that need was more important than safety or law or anything else the galaxy might say. And that, Shira concluded, is how we learned the most important truth. Family is not what you are born to. It is what you choose to build. And we chose each other. The fire crackled. The 3 stars shone overhead. Children of a dozen species played together without knowing or caring about differences. Adults who had been refugees found purpose in helping others. Lily leaned against David on one side. Nico curled up on his lap. The twins sat at Shira's feet. Kara rested her head on Shira's foreleg. Around them, their expanded family talked and laughed and lived. Are you happy? Shira asked David quietly. David looked at everything they had built. The community. The safety, the love. He thought about the scared salvage operator he used to be, convinced that keeping the galaxy at arm's length was the only way to survive. I didn't know it was possible to be this happy, he answered honestly. The night deepened. The fire burned low. Eventually, people drifted to their homes. But the core family stayed together a little longer. 5 children and 2 parents who had found each other in the darkness of space and created light. Nico fell asleep first, his mechanical heart beating steady against David's chest. The twins dozed off, leaning on each other. Kara yawned and closed her eyes. Only Lily stayed awake watching the stars. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. No, David replied. Thank you. You kids saved us as much as we saved you. You taught us what it means to be brave, to stand up even when the whole galaxy says to back down, to choose love even when hate seems easier. That's what family does, Lily said. You taught us that. Shira's wing folded over all of them, warm and protective. Sleep now, little ones. Tomorrow we have new arrivals to welcome, new family to embrace. But tonight we rest. We are safe. We are together. We are home. And under the light of 3 stars on a planet called Haven's Rest, a family slept. Not the family anyone would have predicted. Not the family that made sense to the galaxy's laws and rules, but a family nonetheless, built on choice and courage and love. A family that proved something the galaxy needed to learn. That home isn't where you come from. Home is who you choose to stand beside. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, home is a dragon who teaches you to roar with joy and a group of broken children who teach you that healing is possible and a future that you build together one day at a time. This was their story. But it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning.